Good morning. I'm Marlon Bowling with you, your tour guide to the ag commodities. Well, we're going to be talking about the setup for today's trade, and today, of course, is the eve of tomorrow's supply and demand report. We've talked about that at length here this week. One of the things that the trade has been focusing on is what is that demand doing? It's starting to ramp up a little bit here over the past week, but did we have a chance to add to it this morning? Well, the answer is yes, we did. We have another export sale to announce. We had USDA coming out just a few moments ago, and here is what they said. We sold soybeans this time, and it went to China again, specifically to China. And the amount, 132,000 metric tons of soybeans. It was all for the current marketing year. So they'll take it after harvest is complete here. And here to talk about it, I want to welcome aboard Mr. Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions in Springfield, Missouri. Well, we'll add that to the total. I believe that's, 4 or 5 days in a row of some soybean sales now. We finally got the ball rolling here.
Yeah, good morning, Marlon. That is the 5th consecutive day of a soybean sale. So a lot of the sales have been to China or, of course, the unknown destination, which will likely end up being China. Trade is recognizing that and putting in some nice premium as a result. So we are moving higher. Then, of course, you have the supply and demand report out tomorrow morning, and there's a reason to cover short positions going into that, fearing that the USDA may cut corn yields more than what trade is expecting. Trade is looking for about a 2.1 bushel per acre reduction, and soybeans about a half a bushel per acre. But it certainly wouldn't be out of line to see the USDA do absolutely nothing or cut it even more based off of the crop condition ratings and the hot and dry weather. So there's a lot of uncertainty. This report looks to be a pretty major market mover as we go forward in here. And, the trade is finally catching on to the fact that we have tight ending stocks, and we're starting to export some more product, which will strengthen and tighten our balance sheets even further.
But it seems like it has been content to chop around sideways in wide swings with very wide ranges here lately. It just doesn't really go anywhere, especially like on the corn, for new crop corn. Let's take a look at the corn market overnight with our quotes provided by Bar Chart here. And on the corn, we'll go to that December contract at 6 1/4 higher at 559.5. So it did finish up within a penny of its overnight high there. On the soybean trade, they're starting to get a little momentum behind them here. We have the November contract 17 higher at 13.53 3/4. That would be a penny from its high of the overnight trade. Well, on the wheat market, let's take a look over there. We have the September just fractionally higher, 3/4 higher. December up a penny and a quarter at 7.40 3/4. Now let's switch over to the hard red wheat in Kansas City, and we had September finishing a 1/4 cent lower overnight at 7.14. December was also down just a 1/4 cent. Spring wheat trade in Minneapolis overnight was 2 pennies higher on September at 9.17.5, and December 2.5 higher at 9.04 3/4. Anything in the outside markets to keep an eye on today, Brian?
Well, of course, we're always watching what the U.S. dollar is doing, and it's been fairly strong here recently. But one of the things that caught my attention overnight was Malaysian palm oil futures closing at a new record high overnight. And you can see bean oil prices reflected in that as they were sharply higher. And palm oil, I think this was the highest one-day trade since 2009. So they had a big move in the overnight, and that also spilled over, I think, into the soybean market. So we're keeping an eye on those outside markets.
One thing I noticed yesterday, too, was during the trade, we had sharply higher trade in sugar, even though it looks like it has been backing up here in the overnight trade. So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. And we had also been watching the crude oil market here, the West Texas crude, last night, down about $1 on September at 67.32 per barrel. We'll be back, and we'll take a look at our livestock trade on a Wednesday with Brian Hoops next. Let's go back to Brian Hoops and find out what he thinks about today's livestock trade. What's the setup for today on cattle and hogs, Brian?
And hog weights were out this morning. They are a couple pounds heavier than a week ago, so that's a little bit more added pressure to the hog futures. They've been running some long positions out of the market, limit down the other day, followed through yesterday with some weakness, and I think we're probably going to see a little bit more based off these weights. Meanwhile, the cattle market rallying and trying to rally to contract highs, but it's a struggle as there is some hedging pressure up near those old highs that's capping rallies.
So yesterday, live cattle on the October contract finished 65 cents higher. We were at 128.12. So that's how they wrapped up the day. They were higher across the board there. Now on the feeder cattle trade, they were mixed. September down 15 cents on the close, but October was 15 cents higher at 165.85. And if you look at how we finished in the lean hogs, of course, we had them limit down on Monday on October. Yesterday, they were down another 72 cents on the day, and they were within about 40 or 45 cents of their low of the day when they finished, well off of their earlier high when they did trade a little bit higher. What do you see for opening calls this morning, Brian?
Yeah, I would think the hog market's going to come under some selling pressure here this morning. The cattle, I think, do try and open higher, try and rally and continue to put some premium in because of stronger cash trade expectations for this week, with the show list being down and early week cash trade being $1-2 better on a live basis in the north.
All right, thank you very much. Brian Hoops of Midwest Market Solutions joining us here on a Wednesday. Tammy, it's all yours.